Dave out and let us know that you would be interested in attending. And as long as you're not running against someone who's already been slated for that event, we can have you rub elbows with the powers that be.
Okay, so let's get back to programming again. Good morning, welcome to the Lightning Strike. I'm your host Mohammed Fahim, and with me is our team over here of Ken DeLuke, Dolly Silverberg, Dr. Sheila White, Adriana Alvarez, and joining us at 9 o'clock would be Carl Moose, and we also have Marie Newman joining us and Maria Muzaffar joining us at the 9:30 hour. Sheila, good morning. Let's bring in our guest of the week. Let me see if I can bring him on. I don't see him waiting in the waiting room. So let's see what happened to him.
He's
If
he's actually on he's actually waiting to get signed in. He's
okay, I
texting me.
I don't see I don't see him. I think I may have uh, chopped him off by mistake. So if someone could please get back in touch with Jim and ask him to join us, that would be wonderful. So coming back to the programming for today, folks, I was talking about the national obsession about one single person who, oh boy, even the president of our country was talking about him, and everybody's talking about him incessantly, and we are not going to pay too much attention to something which this it happened, okay? It should not have happened. It happened, and I'm going to leave it at that. But for our president to come out immediately after the shooting of Charlie Kirk and put the blame squarely on the left and the Democrats, that says something. There was no investigation, there was nothing that was concrete. And for the President of the United States to come out and immediately start chopping up people and trying to divide the country like he usually does, that is something that we have to be very careful about, folks. That should not have happened. Sheila, I want your take on that because this is, uh, so ridiculous for the leader of our country
Mhm.
to start
Yeah.
playing these games in the face of such massive tragedy.
When the country has a tragedy, no matter whether it's with children, a citizen, what's going over in Gaza, the person in charge of the country should step up and try to unite and calm the country. There should not be a divide. We know that the gentleman was very polarized, that was killed against specifically brown and black people, saying they shouldn't be here, they're not educated enough to fly a plane. There is a lot of tension that is in the air about this gentleman. There's a lot of rhetoric going on, but
Mhm.
we look to the president of the United States to stand up in a time when the country is trying to figure out what's going on. What should we do? We need a leader that can speak out against violence, all types of violence, no matter if it's a child in school that gets killed or children that gets killed. We need a person that can stand up and not be afraid. I said it before, this gentleman was talking about Christ and Jesus and things, but God is not a racist. Let's be clear. No matter what you think, he's not a racist. So we have to look at the times that we're in and understand that we need leaders, whether it's in government, the administration, within our local municipality powers, to be able to speak up for the things that we as Americans are here for. Should be a country united, not divided.
And that is something that I've been saying all along, folks. We need a president. We need a leader who's the leader of the country. And unfortunately, we don't have someone like that. So we will be getting into more of that. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to chime in. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back on the other side of the break with our person of the week. He had called in. Unfortunately, we were unable to connect with him. We'll try to get him
He's in the
when
waiting
we are on
room,
the
by
break.
the way. I just gotta notice he's in the waiting room. So
So we'll be right back after this break. Let me see if the producer in the studio is hearing us because we are doing this
Calling
remote
all
over here.
residential and commercial property owners. If you're like me, you're sick and tired of paying high electric bills, which, by the way, are on the rise. You're also probably unaware of the federal, state, and utility incentives that you qualify for. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. Again, 630-785-0031. Give Greenlight a call for a no-cost, no-obligation energy assessment, and we'll show you which federal, state, and utility incentives you qualify for. Again, 630-785-0031. Give us a call, 630-785-0031.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Fahim.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Lightning Strike. Our person of the week is Jim Chilson, and I believe he's calling into the studio. So we'll see if we can bring Jim on from the studio. Good morning, Dylan. If you could please connect Jim, please.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. I'm here.
Good morning, Jim. Sorry, we thought that you were going to be coming on live on our Zoom thing so we can see your face, but
I am
we'll just
happy
go
to
with your
do-
voice for today.
I am happy to do that if you want me to. I was in the waiting room.
Okay, if you could please come back on Zoom, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm going to hang up and come back on.
Thank you, Jim. This is a new format we are trying, folks, and we are possibly the only show in the country right now who are trying to do both audio and video at the same time. And this is a work in progress. So let's see.
Unfortunately, Mohammed and myself have the face for radio. So unfortunately, you got to see our faces.
Well, the rest of the team are rock stars. I mean, just look at them. They look so
Oh,
good on
okay.
video.
Jim is there. All right.
There you go.
Okay, Jim, good morning.
Hey, welcome back, Jim. Jim has been on our show before. He's with the Citizens Utility Board. He is an advocate for going against utility companies that are trying to gouge the local residents of more money than they deserve. So thank you, Jim, for joining us again. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me on, and thank you for all the good work you do every morning, just spreading the good word.
Okay, folks, it's 8:17. Let's see Dr. Sheila White get into with Jim Chilson and see what Jim is all about.
Jim, good morning. As Ken was
Good morning.
saying, what are some programs that are offered to help residents reduce their utility consumption because there's so much going on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are some offers out there that are really bad deals that we always warn consumers about. But there's also a lot of good choices out there. Because of Illinois has strong energy policy, there are more choices. And what we try to do is we try to educate consumers that clean energy can help cut your utility bills, that there's an intersection there between cutting your utility bills and clean energy. A couple examples are just energy efficiency programs that you can take advantage of through ComEd because of state legislation that was passed. Now, we fight ComEd constantly to hold them more accountable, to stop price gouging customers, as Ken said. But there are some good energy efficiency programs. So you should always inquire with ComEd by either going to their website, even giving them a call about efficiency programs that are available. Also, if you want to take a step beyond just energy efficiency, there are some good programs like hourly pricing, which charges customers an hourly price for their electricity. Can sound kind of scary, but in terms, most customers who are on that program are saving money because most of the time the price for electricity is quite low. And basically what hourly pricing does is it incentivizes people to reduce their power usage during times when the market price is high, and then take advantage by using power at times when prices are low. Think times like in the middle of the night, running your dishwasher, running your washer or your dryer. That can save customers a lot of money. Now, it's not right for everybody, but that's a really good choice. On the other side, I just want to tell everybody, beware if somebody comes knocking on your door and says, ComEd's price is going through the roof this year, their supply price, which is true. It's the supply price is spiked. And listen, if you let me see your bill, I can see if you qualify for this money-saving program. That's an alternative electricity supplier. And often those are ripoffs. I will tell you that we just put out a news release a couple weeks ago that Illinois consumers with alternative electricity suppliers have lost more than $2 billion over the last decade. So I would say first step, consult with ComEd, go to their website, find out about energy efficiency programs. But on the other side, if somebody comes to your door and says they got a deal and it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Beware.
Hey, Jim, I want to just pipe in here because,
Yeah.
as you know, I'm in the solar industry. I did
Yeah.
like a lot of residential solar, and now I'm more into commercial. But what he just told you is very, very important, because what will happen as these alternative energy suppliers will come in, and you'll get your first bill or your second bill or your third bill, and it's like, oh my God, I'm saving all this money. But then guess what? It goes through the freaking roof. I mean, it's just nuts, and they are a ripoff. So be very careful about that.
And
You
we encourage people to they should have a choice. You have the freedom to choose. Just be very careful. But Ken is right. A lot of times they'll have an introductory rate, and then after a few months, it goes through the roof. So many sad stories. We just got a person $1,000 refund for a bad alternative supplier deal. Go ahead, Dr.
Jim,
White.
it's really important because what you're talking about, what you're saying, how does the board gather feedback to incorporate it, into its strategic decisions in this situation?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, we're getting a lot of feedback this summer about ComEd bills are way too high, and it's because of this supply price spike. So I'm glad you asked this. So we have a consumer hotline, which if you've contacted your utility about a complaint you have, and you're not getting anywhere with the utility, try giving our hotline a call. It's 1-800-669-5556 during business hours, 1-800-669-5556, and tell them what kind of complaint you have about your utility. We might be able to give you guidance. And I've seen that team actually save consumers hundreds, if not thousands of dollars by sometimes spotting errors on bills. So that's one way. We get a lot of calls from consumers. I can't tell you how many times our consumer advocacy department says, hey, Jim, we need a new fact sheet on this issue or that issue, because the people are calling us about this. They don't know what's going on with their utility bills. So that's one way. We also hold hundreds of events across the state of Illinois. All our services are free. And we hold hundreds of events. And a lot of times that's one way we'll find out about problems too. That $1,000 refund we got consumers was through an event that we had, and this person came with their really high bill, and they had actually gotten their power turned off at one point, and we were able to help consumers. So that's one of the best ways, just through consumers, where our consumer advocacy is strong, because we get a lot of support from consumers letting us know what's going on in the front lines.
Wonderful,
And I'd
folks.
like you to elaborate on that a little bit, because there are a lot of people that are having trouble. They need assistance in paying their bills. And like you said, people are having trouble. They're getting things turned off. All of these high costs. What are some of the, things that measures that are in place that can help people to assist them in paying their bills?
I'm glad you asked that. And I know, Mohammed, you have a question too, probably, but let me try to answer this quickly. So LIHEAP, this is very important. Everybody knows the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, something that the administration in Washington has proposed zeroing out. We've gotten some good news lately about that a bipartisan group of legislators, both the Senate and the House, have actually said, no, we need LIHEAP funding. They've actually proposed increasing LIHEAP funding for the next program year, which is really great. The other thing is, Illinois has very strong energy policy. They have a very strong LIHEAP program. So it's a mix of state and federal money. So no matter what happens in Washington, on October 1st, certain people will be able to apply for LIHEAP. And then on November 1st, everybody will be able to. If your income is at or below 60% of the state median income, they can apply. But we've got a blog at our website, citizensutilyboard.org, that talks all about this October 1st opening of LIHEAP. So that's one thing we tell people, is make sure to take advantage of LIHEAP. A lot of times people will say, I don't qualify for LIHEAP and I'm still struggling, and those are really difficult conversations. We talk about how we're trying to change long-term policy, to make it better for consumers, bring more electricity, clean electricity to the grid to bring down prices. And we're working to hold ComEd accountable to keep those bills down. But we often tell people, if you are struggling, it is so important to keep those lines of communication open with ComEd. you know,
Well,
and
Jim,
Yeah,
thank
let
you.
me add to that
Ken,
because
I think we are
what you
running
don't
out of time on
understand.
the segment, Ken.
Wait,
oh,
no, hold on,
Yeah.
Mohammed. This is important.
yeah,
Let me add to that. Because if you are struggling in the short term, you can call ComEd and then they can put off your bill to like a month or two down the road to where you're not going to get your electricity cut off. So it's important to take
yeah.
advantage of that when you're talking to these utilities. And the
Call
other
the
thing, Jim,
yeah
I was going to ask you,
payment plans, right?
yeah.
Go ahead.
The other question, okay, now ComEd's one section of it. What
Yeah,
about natural gas, propane, whatever? Are
yeah.
there other things that you guys are dealing with?
Absolutely. We're fighting about a $500 million in rate hikes proposed by Nicor Gas and Ameren Illinois Gas. That is one of our biggest issues is escalating gas bills. And Ken, I really appreciate when you call up your utility, see if you can get a payment plan to give you a longer time to pay off that debt. Just let them know, I care about this. I want to pay my bills. I need a longer time to pay off that debt.
Great.
Okay, Jim, thank you so much for joining us. And folks, that is Jim Chilson with the Citizens Utility Board. And
Give
we've
us that
got,
number one more time in case people want to write it down and they didn't do it.
We
yeah,
do not give out financial assistance, but
No,
we
no,
do
I'm
give
talking about your
guidance.
phone
Yeah.
number.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know. We give guidance. So 1-800-669-5556. That's 800-669-5556. Having a problem with your utility, getting nowhere with them, give Cub a call. We might be able to give you some guidance on how to move forward.
sounds
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning. Folks, we got Adriana Alvarez waiting patiently for her take on what she wanted to talk about today. Good morning, Adriana.
Good morning. Yes, so recently in the news, you're seeing a lot of things when it comes into the National Guard and ICE coming into Chicago. This has also been a big thing in the news, especially since it is Hispanic Heritage Month. And into September, October, and November, you see a lot of things for Hispanic heritage because September is Hispanic Heritage Month, and then into October and November, it is Dia de los Muertos. Well, following this and ICE coming into Chicago, there has been a bunch of cancellations in events and being postponed, as well as not a lot of people showing their Hispanic heritage. Usually, you see individuals, especially with flags, hanging out of their cars. I went to Chicago last night and I did not see a single flag until I was a little bit deeper into Chicago and I saw less than 10. And that just kind of hurt a little bit because people are scared to show their heritage. They're scared to celebrate where they come from in fear that they will be taken by ICE. And even if they have citizenship, we are seeing that individuals are being taken regardless if they have papers to prove that they are American citizens. And alongside with this, there has been fear just in the nation as well because one point that people have brought up is that they don't say anything when people celebrate during St. Patrick's Day. So why are they bringing like why is there so much hate when people want to celebrate Hispanic heritage? And it's also a little worrisome because how we talked a few weeks ago about the United States government and TikTok. The United States government actually has their own TikTok page. They have for a few weeks now, and it has been, as you can guess, very pro-Trump, very Republican into a little bit of MAGA territory, and that is not good because as we saw during the past few days, there has been a obvious divide in the country. So the U.S. government's like kind of reasoning for having TikTok is because we want to keep an eye on what China's doing. Well, people
Oh,
speculate
yeah.
they want to keep an eye on what we're doing as US citizens because this is a platform that they cannot control. They can control Facebook and Instagram because it is owned by an American company, but they can't control something that's not owned outside of America.
Well, Adriana, one thing which, I mean, I went to the parade over here locally in
Mhm.
Joliet yesterday, and it was like wall to wall. But to your point, I did not see too many Mexican flags this time around. But I did hear a bunch of people trying to diss the parade, and they were talking about how come we don't have, you know, an American Day parade in Mexico? Why are we having a Hispanic or a Mexican Independence Day parade over here? What would be
Yeah,
the answer to that?
well, I know a lot of individuals kind of get a little confused in the sense of why is there so much for Hispanics, because they like to think that Cinco de Mayo and Hispanic Heritage Month are just all wrapped into one. But Cinco de Mayo is the celebration of the independence for one area in Mexico. It is the celebration for Pueblo in Mexico. So when we bring up Hispanic Heritage Month and they wonder why we don't have parades, I like to think of a quote that I heard from a certain celebrity where they said that if it was in a better place in the country, there wouldn't have to be a necessity for heritage months. There wouldn't have to be that
Hmm.
uh, pressure to promote a certain heritage, not really promote, but just kind of show up
At
for
least
your certain
showcase
heritage.
the heritage of the different people that make up
Yeah.
this country. And this country is made up of people from all over the world.
Hmm.
My answer to those people was I just smiled at them and said, "Hey guys, have you heard of the India Day parade that happened in Schaumburg on August 15th?" And they were like, "Really? That happened?" I said, "Yeah, it was massive." So this country is definitely made up of people from different cultures and different countries. And if we show pride in our culture, in our country, there's nothing wrong with that. And obviously, Mexico or America or India is not made up of different cultures from different countries over there as we are over here. Sheila, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm really high on this because, Spanish Heritage Month, it's about history. It's about culture. It's about contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans who came from different places, Spain, Mexico, Caribbean, Central and South America, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, all of these places. This is about culture. It's about history. It's about contributions of Hispanic and Latin Americans making just being proud of their heritage. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a melting pot America. That's why people come here to be able to celebrate who they are. So drop the
Okay.
mic.
Yeah, you know what? I want to add to this, and I've said it before on this show. I'm going to say it again. Okay. I mean, what the government is doing right now, they're coming in unmarked cars, they're coming in with masks on their faces, they're coming in and taking people off the street, which is freaking nuts. I mean, how is that not kidnapping? And shouldn't the local municipalities and whatever, when something like
Hey,
that they see going on, shouldn't they be arresting those people
hey,
for
Ken.
kidnapping people off the street?
Hey, Ken, I got some news for you on that. In
Oh,
fact, some of the ICE cars were actually ticketed yesterday or day before yesterday. And also, California has just passed a law. They're considering passing a law that these people have to show their faces. Okay, so it's 8:33, folks. We've got our person of the week that we had, Jim Chilson, and also we have our candidate of the week joining us shortly. Bethany Johnson will be joining us in about a couple of minutes. If you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. And our call-in segment, What is on Your Mind, is sponsored by Ray Hanania of rayhanania.com. Prominent journalist. Ray has his own Substack, and he is a former reporter with the Sun-Times for the city of Chicago. He used to cover City Hall. And Ray has got a wonderful program going on now with his Substack and a couple of different websites that he is on to. Ray Hanania, HANANIA.com. That is the website to go to. And it's 8:35. If you want us to be on your side, please do log in, and you can listen to us worldwide on the heartlandsignal.com website. And this is a new format we are trying to, where we got actually video and audio, And I would like to welcome our guest of the week now, who is running for the 9th Congressional District, Bethany Johnson. Bethany, if you could please unmute yourself. Welcome to the Lightning Strike. And we'll see Dali go ahead and take over from here.
Hi, Bethany. It's so nice to finally see you in person and meet you.
Hi. Nice to see you in person too, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I met Bethany in Andersonville. She was campaigning and handing out little note cards, and she's running for she's a congresswoman running for the 9th District of Illinois, like Cook County, Lake County, McHenry County, so like Northfield, Evanston, Rogers Park, Uptown, correct me if I'm wrong, Skokie, Edgewater, neighborhoods like that. And I suppose my first question I'd like to ask you is, you were born and grew up in Missouri. So what was like the most intimidating and exciting thing about moving to a bigger city like Chicago and then eventually running for office?
I came here in my van. I didn't have anything when I came to Chicago, and I lived in my van at Wayne and Ridge in front of the firehouse in Edgewater for about 3 months. But I think the craziest thing that ever happened to me, I got this job downtown in the early 2000s for a law firm, and really nice folks. But the attorney asked me to come with him to court one day. And I thought he was going to have me just sit there next to him and, pretend to be a paralegal, which is something, they kind of to bring out like people just to have bodies. And it wasn't that. He got to the courthouse and turned to me and said, "Okay, take my car back to the office." And I had never driven in downtown Chicago before. And I was just like, "Oh no, you got to be kidding me." Like, "Oh no." So I had to drive his sedan back to the office. And I just thought the whole time, "Oh my God, I'm going to die. This is the craziest thing I've ever done." My husband tells me that I basically just fell off the turnip truck a couple of weeks ago. So,
Thank you. That's a sweet story. So I just want to ask again, why are you running for this office? Can you tell me a little bit, if you have personal connection, just your motivation to be a congresswoman for the 9th District?
I was going to volunteer for another candidate or other candidates, honestly. And I didn't like any of them. That's the truth. This is a race between Democrats for this primary. This district is a bright blue district. This is a fight between the Democrats who want to run this position because people in this district actually need help. And this is a job of service to the community. And I feel like a lot of people that are running are either using it as a ladder climb or as some kind of clout chasing thing. And this is a job where you're supposed to know the people of this district and the culture here and how people are and be able to serve them with the constituent service office. I see someone with their finger up.
That's me. Okay. I got a quick question, and I've said this in the past as well. Wouldn't it be great, like, for example, in Texas, where they've done those 5 congressional districts, redistricting them and whatever, if you were a freshman congresswoman going into office, wouldn't not, to give yourself notoriety and put together a position to where you're going to put a constitutional amendment, okay? Because this is going to have to change the Constitution to say that every the districts have to be geographical in proportion. For Mohammed, was it 750,000 per district? Is that it?
It's about 724.
Okay, 724.
Voting age population.
So you that as a geographical, district, not by gerrymandering everything out. If you were to present that, that would probably make a great name for you, and maybe that's a possibility. Fix this shit.
Honestly, there's a lot. I don't want to get into the weeds about the U.S. government and everything, but if we call the Constitutional Convention right now to try to,
Bethany,
please, but you know what I mean.
Please get into the leaves and the weeds and everything.
Think about this. We call a Constitutional Convention to try to pass an amendment like that. Do you know the kind of stuff the Republicans would pass instead? They control too many state houses in the country. So if we were to call, like, say lightning struck me and somehow I've got a magic tongue, for 48 hours and I talk everybody into, this constitutional amendment and we get everybody to sign it. And then we call a constitutional convention to ratify that. And like, where are we going to end up? You know what I mean?
Okay. Let me just interrupt real quick here. Obviously there would be a bunch of pushback from the right side of the
Oh no,
aisle.
I just mean the other stuff that would come in at
Yeah.
the same time. Like I don't
Yeah.
think people understand like the can of
Well,
worms you
let's
start opening up when people start trying to call for a constitutional convention.
let's
It's such a
switch gears
divided,
real quick, Bethany, and let's look at why are you running and what makes you different from the other candidates.
I really am running for number one. I want to have a constituent service office that serves this district. Jan Schakowsky's office has been closed to the public for 2 years. There are people who need help from a constituent service office, especially with this, I hate saying this word, big, beautiful bill that Trump got pushed through after midterms. Things are really going to hit the fan. We're going to need constituent service to step in and help people greatly. And I don't think the other candidates that are running for this office really are even thinking about that. They're thinking about how they're going to be on MSNBC or how they get to climb a ladder to look more important. And the truth is that we're going to be in the thick of it soon. I think that we could take that constituent service office and staff it with social workers instead of office workers. And then, because social workers can do office work as well. And then we set up a mobile unit so that we can actually service the rest of this gerrymandered district the way that it is. Because this is where we are and, we're going to be how we are. I don't see a lot of the other candidates focusing on the real situation right now. And I feel like we're going to need that.
Well, I was good friends with Jan Schakowsky. I'm still good friends with her, and we communicated quite a bit when I was in the district over there in the 8th district, working with the unemployment office in Arlington Heights, and so the Constituent Services Office at that time was very active. I'm talking not 2 years back, but before 2 years back.
Yeah,
Jan
I
has
think
been
it's
there for a
drifted a
long
little.
time, and that is one aspect that I think I like what you're saying about that. Yeah, we have to have a Constituent Services Office which is active for the constituents. Now, apart from that, what are the 3 most important things that you are focusing on? What is your platform? Give me the
Well,
top 3.
I'd say, first of all, there's a broad stroke I have to say about this. I think most progressive Democrats feel pretty much exactly the same about most issues. It's just how you show up to get those issues taken care of. We see time after time. We see Jan do it. We see other politicians do it right now. They release a press release about legislation that they're introducing that we all know cannot pass, right? Because we all know there needs to be 60 votes in the Senate. There's not going to be 60 votes in the Senate. So what are we doing, right? We have to start doing this in a different way. And I really do believe we need to start leveraging the funding that goes to red states, even in emergencies, in order to get strings tied on that money, because that's what we can do. We need to be willing to shut down the federal government. We need to be willing to do anything we have to do to put the brakes on what's happening in Washington. Now, do I think the other candidates would be willing to? No. So I think that's broad strokes kind of where I'm at. I would say my second, kind of how you show up, basically, how we're going to get all of this. Now, I'd say my second thing would be I really want to see consequences for these masked federal agents. I don't think that there's a lot of people of color in this country who are always going to be scared because they're not going to know if any of the guys working in federal law enforcement were one of these guys with the mask on. So we identify these folks through the oversight committee. And then the next time we have a president who is a Democrat and cares, we'll get rid of all these people because what they're doing is disgusting. We don't have secret police in this country. Then I would say that the other thing that I really would say is we need to start tying funding a lot more closely to the things we need and not just fancy things for the military. It seems our military budget goes up and up and up, and funding for everything else goes down, down, down. And we have a really great military. It's done a great job. And I think that we can claw back some of the funding from that and get that to hospitals and schools because, I mean, enough is enough,
Okay, folks, so that is Bethany Johnson, who is running for the 9th Congressional District. She's one of the candidates. She's joined us today on the Lightning Strike to talk about who she is. And I think Dr. White has a question for you,
Yeah, I
Bethany.
just have one question. Thank you so much, Bethany. What steps are you taking to foster bipartisan support for the important issues? We know that this divided country that we're in, and it takes both
Oh,
sides.
I don't need bipartisan support. I really want to say this. This is not a Republican district.
Yes.
I'm not running to represent Alabama. I'm not running to represent Missouri, where I grew up. You know, I'm
Okay.
running to represent a very progressive district in Illinois. This is one of the most progressive districts in this country, and I'm not running to look for bipartisan support.
Okay.
You know, not in this district. You know,
Okay.
I'm not going to get Republican votes. I'm not sure if you realize, but Republicans aren't going to vote for a trans lady who used to live in her van. They're just not. And one who used to play roller derby, also probably not on the list, you know.
Mhm.
But the truth is, you know, I've had Trumpers yell at me on the street while I'm out getting signatures for my ballot access petition, you know, and I always tell them the same thing. I'm glad your vote doesn't matter here. Oh man, you should see their jaw drop, but it doesn't. And I don't have to worry about them because this race is about the primary. And once the primary is over, we know who the person for the general is going to be. It's
Okay,
just
and
the
so
numbers. Sorry.
what
Sorry,
are,
Sheila. I know,
That's
but
okay.
I'm blunt as
That's
heck about
good.
it, you know.
yeah,
I
what do you think about your fellow congressman now over there, Brad Schneider? What do you think about what he's doing in Congress?
Um, you know, I don't really see a lot of people doing anything. I mean, have
There you
you,
go.
you know, I mean, that's the truth. We should be, you know, can I talk about something that I did last year?
Please go
Yes,
ahead.
Okay,
totally.
last
Go
December,
nuts.
I went to,
Blow our
last,
mind.
last December, I went to the Capitol
Okay.
to meet with Jan Schakowsky because of the Capitol bathroom ban that happened for trans people. It made me very upset that nobody seemed to be speaking up from our side at all. And I went there, and what I did that day, I talked to Jan, and we had it out. We had a very we came to a head, you know, at each other, and we did not get along because she was very dismissive and rude. And I had come all the way to Washington for her to tell me that it was no big deal that I am now banned from the bathrooms at the Capitol. So what I did that day was drink as much water as possible and go into every man's bathroom and pee on the floor and then leave. Because you're supposed to make this difficult for these people. Like you might think it's funny, but you know,
Yeah,
if they're
that
going
is
to start
making a statement, though, Bethany.
yeah,
That is
if they're going
making
to
a
start
statement.
discriminating against
do you know
people,
how
you better make it right for them. You
people
know,
like
let
do
them.
sit-ins? It's like
Yeah.
technically like SHIT-ins. That's what we were thinking about doing at school, like schools across the country, which is what you're doing, which is awesome.
But yeah, it's just, you know, if you say I have to use the men's bathroom, then I'm going to use the men's bathroom, and I don't have a wiener, and I'm not going to use a stall because if I'm in the men's bathroom, I'm just going to be right over here by the right
Well,
over here by the urinals. So
and
you know, but that's if they want to, you know, if they want to get nuts, let's get nuts. You know, I would
well,
I'd rather not have to do this. I just think it's, you know, asinine
okay.
and childish. But
So, folks, that is Bethany Johnson, who is running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, primary coming up. And when is the petitions due, Bethany?
at the end of October, I believe it's October 25th through the early November.
Oh,
I'm sitting on
I
a
thought it
huge
was the
pile of petitions.
17th, but
What's
no,
that?
I thought it
No,
was the 17th, but in your
I believe
district,
it's the
different.
25th. You know,
Okay.
but honestly, I'm sitting on. I don't mean to brag. I'm pretty excited about this. I'm getting my petition signatures myself. You know,
Okay.
I think that's actually the intention of the petition signature goal. You know, in you know, this is that you're supposed to actually meet people. People are supposed to know who you are.
Yeah,
And
Bethany, we're going to be doing a petition sign drive this Friday coming
awesome.
up. Okay, and if you would like to join us with that, you know, you can maybe you know, put more signatures on your petitions, and hopefully
Well,
we can help you out.
Ken, I don't think that's going to work out. It's way north, and we are doing it. Our
Well, no, I'm south.
second
Okay,
anniversary
that's
is in.
fine. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can sign a petition
No,
anywhere.
no, Ken,
Illinois.
hang on, Ken. You haven't run for office, my friend. I have. Okay.
I was your chief of staff when you were
I know,
running for
sir.
office.
So you got to be in the district to get those petition signatures. You can't get signatures for Bethany in Frankfurt. Okay, that's
I wish.
yeah, that's far off. But
Yeah.
one thing which I have often wondered, Bethany, and we'll finish off on this. Why can't we amend the process to get this done petition signatures online? We can do all kinds of things. We can do like massive financial transactions online. Why can't we get
You
petition
know,
signatures?
I used to work in data and
Huh?
political data, and I always think most people who know enough about internet security never want to have something like that go through the internet. These petitions are, this is an actual government action. So once you have that, and if you could end up having something that's falsified, it's the same reason why when people talk about we should be able to vote online, I think, oh God, no way, man. Don't you remember when everybody's Facebook account gets hacked? Like every,
No,
like
but heck, I mean,
that, you know what I mean? Like,
getting petition signatures anyway, most of those signatures are always challenged by somebody or the other, right?
mhm.
So
But if they
you
were
can,
online, the same thing would happen, I
yeah,
guess is what I'm saying. But they would
but
be able to
it would
say like,
make
oh,
it
because of
much
IP address
easier.
or
It would make it much easier for people to actually, think of running for
well,
office.
because you should have to meet people online in real life. That's what I've been saying about getting my own petition signatures, and I want to say that again. I think when I'm getting somebody's petition signature on the street, I'm making an actual impact. They are meeting me on the street. Now, they might not like me. They might like me. They might. But when you meet somebody in person, you get a much better impression of who they are
No,
than when you
agree.
just
I agree
when you
with
just
that
like
part
some
of it.
Instagram's post or whatever. So
I
they're going to meet me anyway. So sign this petition while you're here. But I think that really is something that basically everybody in this race should be willing to do. But
well,
I don't
I
think that
agree with
most
you
are.
on
But
that part
yeah,
of it. Like meeting people in person is always good, but when it is
I've gotten
minus 30 degrees,
1,753.
yeah, minus 30 degrees out there and it is snowing,
I mean,
and out there
it
knocking
ends
on
at the end of
doors.
October, But
Yeah.
that's the thing, I figured out where people walked the most in my
Okay.
district, and
So
I
you've already
planted
made
myself
your
there.
mark.
Yeah, but you have to get an overage.
1,753, you're good to go.
Pretty much. I mean, you have to get an overage, and I've done this all myself. These are 1,753 signatures I've gotten myself
By
on
the
the
way,
street
that's very,
individually.
very impressive. I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
yeah. Thank you. I worked on Angus King's reelection campaign in 2018, and our highest number was 500, and he got a special award from the senator. But yeah, I bet.
Okay.
So this is thousands of people I'm meeting on the street, one on one. Mostly with good impacts.
Sounds good. And Bethany, thank you so much for joining
impressions.
us, folks.
Sorry.
That is Bethany Johnson, who's running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, coming up soon. The elections are in March, and that is the primary election. I guess there's like, what, 10 or 15 candidates running in the 9th District. Everybody and their uncle seems to want to run in the 9th District and the 8th District. And so that's our democracy in action. Thank you so much, Bethany, for joining us. And
Thank you.
feel free to come back later on after the primaries are over. And if you have won the election, we'd love to feature you and get you into more in tune with our listeners also to see what you're all about. You're tuned into the Lightning Strike, folks. We come every Sunday morning now from 8 to 10. And we have our lines open. If you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. You can also text us at that number, 773-763-9278. This segment is our What's on Your Mind for the callers and is sponsored by Ray Hanania of rayhanania.com. You can go check him out. And at 9 o'clock, we will be joined by our science and technology correspondent, Carl Moose, who will be joining us. 9:15, we have got former Congresswoman Marie Newman joining us with her segment, which is basically going to ignore at your own risk. That is what Marie's segment is. And we're going to talk a lot about different topics with Marie also. Again, if you want to leave us a message, after the show, please write this number down, 312 TLS 8182. You can always leave us a voice message on that, and we'll be happy to play your voice notes on the show for you. It's about
I got a quick
8:54,
question,
and Ken has
Dolly.
got his finger
Hey,
raised
hold
up.
on.
Yes, Ken.
Hold on a second. I got a quick question for Dolly. Tell me about this candidate. You brought her in there. What are your personal impressions about her? Because I think you got, things in common and you want to bring that up.
Yeah, I want to say like I remember noticing her while I was walking in Andersonville, and she was so polite, so soft spoken too. She didn't come up to me and my friend and like, you know, jump into our faces and say, please, please sign this petition, please vote for me. She just very nicely said like, "Hi, my name's Bethany. I'm I came here from Missouri, and I'd love if you get to know me a little bit more and help me run for the ninth district." And she was so kind and so warm. I feel like she's going to be a great beacon of light for the queer community, specifically in the ninth district, and the trans community. I wanted to ask her, I didn't get to, but I wanted to ask her, what she specifically would fight for when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights and trans rights as a congresswoman in the ninth district. I know that her district, obviously, it's super blue. She's probably not, I hope that she doesn't run into a lot of trouble trying to help that community, because that community is very close knit. But I really think she's going to be a beacon of hope and light to our community. I'm excited to see what she does. So,
Well,
All
folks,
right.
if you are running for office and if you would like to be featured on the Lightning Strike, feel free to send us an email, which is TLS for the Lightning Strike 820 TLS 820 AM at gmail.com, or go to our website, tlschicago.com. Our new website, TLS Radio, should be up next week. Hopefully, we are working very quickly to finish out, and you can always send us a message from the website also. And Dali and Adriana are going to be monitoring those candidates, and you have to go through their monitoring first before you are featured on the show over here. So if you are a candidate, or if you know of a candidate who's running for office, let them contact us, or you can contact us on their behalf. And Dali or Adriana will send you a form to fill up, so we get to know you and you get to know us, and we
Oh,
can
and by the
respond.
way, let me just interrupt you, Mohammed. You can be on the other side of the aisle like in my voting experience, for the many times that I voted on both sides of the aisle. I like, back in the day when I was a kid, there was Irv Cups in it. He talked about the lively art of conversation. Okay. So if you're a Republican and you have valid points to make, let's discuss them and put it together and see if it makes sense, whether, it's my opinion, your opinion, whoever's opinion. So do that. So this is not just one-sided. I just want to make that clear.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Ken. Yeah, folks, we want to make this a platform to where we can have civil discussion. At the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, and any other day, we are Americans first. When I travel overseas, when I whip out my passport, it says, citizen of the United States of America. It does not say that I'm a Republican or a Democrat or I'm a whatever, right? So let us bring the country together. I know that WCPT is the largest progressive talk radio station in the country, and progressive means that we have to bring everyone together. It's not going to be just leaning on the left side of the aisle all the time. That is something that we are very concerned about when we look at what is happening in the country today. Joining us
Well
at
said. Well said. That was
9:15.
great.
Thank you, Ken. And that is something that I've always believed in. And if you would like to, please support the show also by going to our website, and there is a donate button over there that we want to keep commercials as low as possible on the show, and we want the show to be sponsored by our listeners. And that is going to be the difference. It's coming up at 9 o'clock. We'll be taking a quick station break at 9 o'clock, I believe, to go to the top of the news, top of the hour news with NBC joining the station. It is an affiliate of NBC for the news hour. So at 9 o'clock, we will take a quick break for the news, and 9:05, we will be back with the programming. And we'll have Carl Moose joining us at 9:05 to talk about what is happening in the scientific world. 9 o'clock, are we taking a break to go to the top of the hour over here, Dylan? Okay, I don't hear the board op coming on to talk about the top of the hour, so we'll continue the programming. And I'd like
NBC
to.
News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor.
There you
Heat
go.
records are being challenged across the central
There you
U.S.
go.
this weekend. Forecasters warn in the last week of summer, temperatures could hit the upper 90s from Louisiana to Wisconsin through Wednesday. The heat wave will drive temperatures 5 to 15 degrees above average, and some record highs will be challenged. President Trump is urging NATO nations to stop buying Russian oil. Trump said Saturday he's ready to do major sanctions on Russia when all NATO nations have agreed and started to do the same thing, and when all NATO nations stop buying Russian oil. Trump also suggested NATO nations put 50 to 100% tariffs
guys
against
hear me
China in
still?
place until after the end of the Ukraine-Russia war. The Trump administration is planning to resume
I know we're
federal
not on
funding
air.
for research at Harvard University. Lisa Carton reports.
According to multiple reports, the White House says it will restore the funds after a judge's ruling that a sweeping blockade of funds was illegal. However, the administration has said it would appeal the judge's decision and maintain its pressure campaign against the university. It's unclear how widespread the restorations were or when the government's payments to Harvard would begin.
A tornado is causing damage in Utah. The twister touched down Saturday on the Navajo Reservation near the border with Colorado. While there were no reports of injuries, Navajo Nation President Boo Nygren says multiple homes were destroyed. The Emmy Awards will be handed out tonight for the best shows streaming and on TV. A sci-fi thriller leads the pack of nominations.
I give consent to sever my memories between my work life and my personal life.
The sci-fi thriller Severance has the most total nominations with 27, including for Best Drama Series, Lead Actor in a Drama Series, and Lead Actress in a Drama Series. Other top nominees include the Batman spin-off series The Penguin, which racked up 24 nominations. The 77th Primetime Emmy Awards will air on CBS and stream on Paramount Plus starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. You're listening to the latest on NBC News Radio.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time
So,
to
folks
learn
who
more
are
about
listening to us on
American Humane's
Facebook,
other
we
work
are
at American
on a station
Humane.
break on WCPT,
Big Picture
and
with
you can
Edwin
tune in
Eisendrath,
on the
Saturdays at
audio
1
for the
p.m.
WCPT stations at
Americans that want to see change.
heartlandsignal.com.
Now, of course, the
This
change
is the
time for
lightning strike you're tuned into. We come every Sunday morning from
Americans voted
9,
for change. They
from
just,
actually 8 to
Trump, I
10.
think they got the wrong kind. Still, I'm grateful for elections,
Sheila,
even when we lose.
Dolly,
You know, they tell us
and
about
Adriana,
ourselves, and
do
you
you have
can't
anything
ignore
that you
that
want
and
to
shouldn't.
The Big
contribute
Picture
more
with Edwin
that you
Eisendrath,
haven't talked about
Saturdays
yet?
at 1 p.m.
No, I think everything has been good.
Limo-style private tours of Chicago's
Okay, and we are
historic downtown,
still live on
lakefront,
Facebook.
Ag
So
Mile,
whatever that we are saying,
Chicago
all our
mob,
Facebook
ghost,
audience
and
is
haunted
actually
stories,
listening to us.
historic churches,
Let's
stunning
keep
architecture, up to
our
6
little
people
secrets
per tour.
while we are
We
doing this,
pick you
folks.
up and bring you back in style. For Chicago tours you'll never forget, call 312-841-2560. That all-important phone number is 312-841-2560.
From energy to public health, extreme weather, the economy, and more, Climate Connections makes the global local. Hear it weekdays during the Tom Hartman program and during Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, right here on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability.
I do
I'm one
love
of
the
them.
new logo,
I'm
though.
also
I'll
a
be honest
working
with
mom
you.
who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
The following program, The Lightning Strike, is sponsored by Mohammed Fahim, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of Heartland Signal, LLC, or its management.
Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Fahim, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Fahim.
Okay, folks, good morning and welcome back to the Lightning Strike. With me in the studios, not in the studios, with me virtually now. I keep on saying in the studios, but we are the first show, I believe, in the country who is doing this kind of format. We actually go live on Zoom and we connect with the studio on the audio part of it, and then we go live on Facebook on the studios page and on my personal page. Unfortunately, we could not go live on our Lightning Strike page. Someone did not like what we were saying, and they took our page down. I could not believe it when Murray Newman called me and said, "Hey, what's your Facebook page?" I can't find it. I'm like, Murray, we had a Facebook page. We had like 8,000 views on it, and somehow someone hacked it and took it down. We got Carl Moose joining us. Carl, good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Sunday.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much for holding on. 9:15, we've got Congresswoman Murray Newman coming in. And at 9:30, we have got Maria Mazafra joining in with her segment of Breaking the Echo Chamber. Carl, what's on your mind, my friend? What is happening in the scientific world?
Yeah, so I last week I was doing some research on I was looking at our new logo, and I've always been interested in the energy and the power of lightning. I'm a big Tesla fan, Nikolai Tesla, and he had this idea years ago. I mean, 100 years ago, or when he lived a while back, of being able to harness lightning and the energy in lightning. And a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, it's great to see a lightning storm come in over the lake or whatever, and it's really interesting. But the amount of energy that's discharged when lightning strikes is pretty amazing. And there's been a ton of technology and a lot of research done on lightning. And lightning strikes all over the world all the time. We don't realize it, but if you've ever seen a satellite image of Earth, you can see lightning striking all over the world at all times. So it's not as though, a lot of times locally in Chicago or wherever somebody's listening, they may see a thunderstorm roll in, once every couple of weeks, but what we don't realize is there's lightning striking the Earth, and that static energy being discharged between the atmosphere and the Earth's surface all day, every day. And so, they've been trying to figure out how to harness that energy because it's natural energy. It's a renewable source of energy. Mm-hmm. But the problem is getting it in a bottle. And they say that lightning in a bottle, trying to capture it and convert it is the real challenge. So, and believe it or not, there are outfits out there working on that. So if anybody's got any ideas about that, please share them.
That would be
I love that you said that.
Awesome.
By the way, Carl, that's great because our logo or our jingle is lightning in the bottles. So that was like very.
That's what I was thinking, Ken, when Carl brought up the lightning in a bottle thing. Carl, there is enough power in one energy or one lightning bolt to provide the energy source for the entire year for our whole country. And that is the power of the lightning strike also. We're trying to make sure that we get some programming out there which is going to really brighten up people's life and actually throw some light and bring out all those cockroaches that are trying to hide behind different. I can see Sheila smiling over there. Right, Sheila. The different cockroaches that are hiding over there behind different. How do I put it? Different. Uh, oh God, masks is the best way that I can think of. And at the beginning of the day, and I keep on repeating these folks, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, we are Americans first. Let us stop putting these divides in between us that, he's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and he's a Socrat and a socialist. Uh, we are all Americans first, and we have the right to differ in our opinions on any topic and every topic. And uh, we don't have to fight over things, and we don't have to actually take guns and kill people over it. What happened with Charlie Kirk was unfortunate, but that has been happening all over the country. And the same day that Charlie Kirk was murdered, there was a school shooting, and there was no coverage of that. Adriana, I want your take as a young person on this. What do you think the youth is thinking, and how would you change things if you were to come in power? What would be your platform?
When it comes to how the nation takes certain news, and whether it be, yes, as intense as it was this week, where we had a lot of death and a lot of killing, a lot of divide, I think it's most important to remind the country that we're all united as one and not divided. Like we've seen all in the media with, yes, this social media, and he was a podcaster. That's all that he was. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't somebody in office. He was a social media influence and a podcaster. For that to get so much coverage and the school shooting not to get as much coverage, to the flags to be half-mast for him and not for all of the children that are affected by that, and for our president of the United States to say that they hope that the person who committed the murder get the death penalty, that's something that I just couldn't believe was said at all. And as a young individual, it again, it makes me nervous for where this country is headed. Because if this is the kind of influence that we're getting now, especially as so many students of so many college students are now just kind of dipping their toes into politics, and this is the influence that they're receiving. Imagine what's going to happen in 10, 20 years from now. And if one of these individuals ends up wanting to run for an office position, if one of these individuals wants to run for president, if this is the influence that they're receiving now, I can only imagine that it's going to get worse. So for myself, it's just, you have to remind people of this country that we are united as one, that we're not against each other. Red and blue are just a concept that is made up so that way it's the people against the people, and not actually the people against the government, because God forbid that we want to have something where we revolt against the people that are in power, and not so much we're rioting, we're just doing so much destruction and crime. No, it's more so, here's our opinion. Government, please listen to us.
Well, Ken wants to make a point. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, Adriana, you are right on. You nailed that whole program. It's not black versus white. It's not blue versus red. It's not progressive versus conservative. It's not. The whole point being is that there has to be a confluence of ideas, and the only way we get beyond that is education, because people, they want to be on a team. Okay, I'm a Bears fan. The Bears suck. But I'm a Bears fan, okay? So I mean that's just the thing that I do because like, I grew up in Chicago. But the point being, and what you're kind of alluding to, is that we need to go and educate people and make them understand what is in their own best interest. Okay. So, I mean, I love that you just said that because most people, they don't think it's always a dichotomy, this or that, and there's no in between. But what you brought up was brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, it's 9:14, folks. Former Congresswoman Marie Newman should be joining us shortly. But I do want to make a point over here. If you guys listen to what the Utah governor was saying, that remark is something that has really got me riled up over here. He said that for 33 and a half hours, he was hoping and praying that the person who shot Charlie Kirk was from another state or from another country or from somewhere else and not Utah. I mean, this is the mentality of these people in power. I had let me just bring in Congresswoman Marie Newman over here. It's 9:15. And we will continue the conversation on this one. So, folks, we have got our former Congresswoman, Marie Newman, who is regular on our show now, and she has her segment, Ignore at Your Risk. And Marie Newman is also an author. Her book, A Life Made from Scratch, has been going very strongly. She is also got a Substack column called At Marie Newman Studio. And Marie is a podcaster also. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Everyone is, I don't say peachy because I don't have a peach tree anymore. Perry. I got a pear tree, which is like putting out a couple of thousand pears now.
Which, by the way, just a plug for the Fahim family. Their peach jam or their pear jam is amazing. So just FYI.
Oh, I forgot about that last time I gave you that.
Yeah, so good, so delicious, and the little jar is so cute I could die. Hey, good morning, folks. So as folks that joined us last week, and as will be the case every week, I like to look at the stories that maybe are the story within the story or the root cause or something that's overlooked. So that's why we call it Ignore at Your Risk. So let's start with the very sad but all too American story that happened this week, right? It is the death of Charlie Kirk. It was a political assassination. We do have to say that. However, it started out with twists and turns who the shooter was. They now have what they believe. We still have to say alleged. He hasn't been adjudicated yet. The alleged shooter is in custody right now. And immediately, and this is what breaks my heart, and this is part of our American story right now, is that they started saying that, oh gosh, it was this super lefty guy, probably a trans person, probably leftist ideology, and it wasn't. He's actually part of a group called Groyper, which follows Nick Fuentes, a far-right white supremacist. So the story within the story there is actually the root cause of this problem, and it is that males between 13 and 40 are online almost all the time. And about 96% of these folks that do these mass shootings or targeted assassinations are white males between 18 and 35. That is the real problem here. Statista surveys tell us that, in fact, most white males are on what they would categorize almost all day long during that category. And it is not that video games are bad. It is not bad to be online. It is not the fact that you like social media. It is the fact that they're not creating human connections, right? And it is across all age groups, but particularly prominent with white young males. So this is where social science needs to come in and be our friend, study it more, and help us understand how to moderate and get our kids to operate a little differently. The second story today, which really infuriated me, but I'm seeing it everywhere. The good news is my platform, Substack, is really benefiting from all of these commentators like Jim Acosta, who has been a broadcast journalist for 30 or 40 years. Same with Joy Reid, brilliant, high-level, sophisticated journalists that do an amazing job, are getting kicked out of their positions because they're speaking truth to power. And it happened again this week, and it was kind of swept under the rug, is that at MSNBC, Matthew Dowd, who I actually don't even agree with all the time, very even-handed, speaks truth to power to both the left and the right, was kicked off for simply saying, and I quote, and I'll back it up, the context is that Katie Tur, the anchor for that hour on MSNBC, asked a question about, why is all this hate out there, something to the effect. And he simply said, I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which lead to hateful actions, which is not controversial and was not targeted at any one group. And he got fired for that. And that is just plain old, everyday censorship. So folks, speak up when you see this, whether it's someone you agree with or someone you don't agree with. You have to speak up to these big networks and tell them that it is part of what the Fourth Estate does, that journalism does, is that it speaks truth to power. So let's turn our attention to another story within a story here. Our favorite group, ICE, landed along with some federal agents and some National Guard in our midst. They went up to Fort Sheridan a couple weeks ago and started housing themselves, and then started descending. I will tell you, I think this is an amazing classic story of fighting back. Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, President Preckwinkle of Cook County, and other officials in the state of Illinois came together in an amazing coalition, spoke truth to power, stood with locked arms. And guess what? The result is, yeah, we're going to have some extra ICE around for a while, although I think they're afraid of us, if I have to be honest with you. But I do think that Trump will not enter illegally with military. I think that all of the tactics they chose, which was, hey, we are going to litigate you and it's ready. Kwame Raoul had this case ready to go. And hey, we are not going to let you do anything illegal. And hey, the optics on this are going to be bad. And the other thing that Governor Pritzker did that I think was amazing was he said, take videotape of anybody you think is doing anything wrong at any time. And being citizen journalists and citizens is amazing, right? That's what we all have to do. But there's one final thing in that story that I think was overlooked. And Governor Pritzker actually said it. He said, what I'm most worried about is that whether it is Chicago, Baltimore, Memphis, wherever it is, Trump is inserting these military forces as a run-up and a prep and a dress rehearsal for elections. And he was really clear with us. He's like, look, we can't let him get away with this. So everybody has to be a part of this and make sure that our elections in 26 and 28 are free and fair. And this is not alarmist behavior. I want to clarify a few things. One, we are going to have elections. And I believe they will be free and fair because I think we will all do something simple. When we see something, we will say something. And that's what Governor Pritzker's ethos and mandate is that, hey, folks, we're all in this together. Make sure it's free and fair because we're watching, right? And then one final note on the elections. I think there's about 44 million registered Democrats in the US and about 37 million registered Republicans. About half of each of those groups, according to Pew, is very squishy. Like they could go either way, even though they're registered one way or the other. And then the rest are just unregistered. So we still have to remind ourselves 60% of the nation are context voters, issue voters, or independent. That does not, and I underline does not, mean they're moderate. They are not. They have specific issues that they want. And I'm going to take questions in 90 seconds. So I have a couple of my friends here with their arms up, so I'm just going to finish this thought. So what I want to say is that folks, encourage your incumbents and your candidates that you're working with to identify the top 3 issues in their area, whether it is a council district, it is a ward in the city, or it is a congressional district, whatever it is. tell them to focus on the issues, and they will win. That's what voters want right now. So with that, this week on my Substack live show on Wednesday, I'm going to have Congressman Mike Quigley to talk about a bunch of things about New Guard versus Old Guard, Ukraine, and other things. And I'll be talking about that in my Substack column this week too. So watch for that. And you can also find me in your local Patch publication on Wednesday. So with that, I'm going to put myself on pause, and I think Ken has a question.
I do. Do you think that it's remotely possible with the next November election that's coming up, and if the House switches sides and maybe we can poll again 4 Senate seats to have the Senate, in a majority, do you think it's even remotely possible that impeachment is on the table again?
So let's break that down. So let's talk about probabilities, and then we'll talk about impeachment. So the probability of taking out the House, I think, is better than even Stephen. I think it's probably in the 60% range based on the 30 or 40 targeted seats that we have, and the opportunity that we have, because while our leadership is rolling over, there's a lot of really great leaders in Congress that are fighting hard, and I know challengers are fighting hard, and people want change. So I think in 26 we can. There's a good chance we'll take back the House. The Senate is another matter. The Electoral College and other devices that are racist and unfair still prevail in our politics. And so I think that it is not nearly as likely that we'll take back the Senate, in which case it is very hard to get impeachment articles through in order to impeach this president. Now, we can cauterize him. We can completely cauterize him with taking back the House. That's why it's important to work on every single Senate race and every single House race, is that we can cauterize and neuter him. So he can't do anything, and he's like the lamest of the lame ducks of presidents of all time. Like, we can create a historical record. So whether it is impeachment or we are simply neutering him and cauterizing his horrible activity.
Okay, Marie, I just got on. Sorry, I got on to the word neutralize him. I wish we could have neutralized his dad a long time back. That could have solved a lot of problems.
Oh my.
Okay. So, no, but jokes aside, we have a president, and just look at even the governor of Utah. I mean, the guy has issued this statement openly that he was hoping for 33 hours that the person who allegedly shot Charlie Kirk and who is in custody would not turn out to be someone from Utah, but from another state or from another ethnicity or something like that. I mean, this is the kind of crazy talk that these people are doing on the right, and they are flipping over backward now to create a new narrative that this kid who's in custody was actually a leftist.
Yeah, he's not.
How the heck do you
Mohammed, let me ask you this question. He was on the top of the building. He had his rifle. He shot one shot and then went down and dismantled the rifle. And then he put it in, he took it to a forest preserve, reassembled it, and left it there for people to find.
Well, Ken,
that makes sense, right?
Ken, one of the things that the WCPT and I like is we talk facts. Okay, so there's lots of theories floating around, and I don't want to get into the weeds on that one. Marie, you wanted to respond to?
No, I just quickly. We know some things. We still don't know his motivation or why he killed Charlie, if in fact he did. Again, we have to presume he is innocent until he's adjudicated, and that hasn't happened yet. So this alleged or potential killer. What they have found is that he's part of the Groyper group, right? Which is Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is a extreme far right white supremacist that's a podcaster and it's other things. We don't know. We also know that he apparently has a trans roommate. He doesn't write a lot. We don't know about his political ideology, but he comes from a white Christian very, very evangelical background. And his whole family, in fact, his grandmother said, is that she doesn't know anybody who's not a Trumper. So We don't know what his ideology exactly was, and we don't know, who he is or all of those things. But he was part of the Groyper Group, which means he was part of the far right movement. That doesn't mean he, tried to kill, or he did in fact kill Charlie for those reasons. So those are the facts right now. We don't know why he killed him.
Right. Carl Moose has got his hand raised. He's got a question, and it's 9:29 coming up. So we'll go to Maria Muzaffar at 9:30. Carl, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, so I just want to make a couple comments. I'm old enough to remember John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. This is, Ronald Reagan assassination attempt. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just not right. I mean, and I listened to the news yesterday, both sides of the news, and we may never know what happened or why this guy did this. But at the end of the day, somebody that was in public speaking, whether they've got 1 million viewers or not, was assassinated. And that is not what this country's all about. I mean, freedom of speech, absolutely. We have a right to speak our opinions, and we shouldn't have to be fearful of somebody killing us for that or harming us for that, as well as public assembly, as long as it's peaceful public assembly. So, I mean, that's the real heart of this. It's a tragedy. I mean, now his wife, and I don't agree with everything that they talk about or the religious or whatever. It doesn't matter. But now his young wife is a widower. They have 2 young children, and this was because somebody disagreed, whether he was on the right or the left or what group he belonged to or whatever. It's a real American tragedy, and it's just very disturbing that that somebody can be attacked or murdered just because they have an opinion. And I think that's really what we have to focus on. And this people with mental issues, and there's a lot of people out there that are unstable, should not have access to weapons, plain and simple. And how that ended up and how this we got here is just really, that's the thing that we should all focus on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mohammed, if I can ask, and thank you, Carl, for that. That is an excellent point. I know it was said earlier, but you can't say that enough, that we have to keep people safe in public and their speech should be protected. I want to say 2 things, is that in the last 3 years in 40 states and nationally, mental health care has been gutted. It has been gutted by Republicans, and that's just a fact. And access to guns has gone up. So Carl's exactly right. People with mental health issues should not have guns, and we shouldn't have the great access that we do. And people should be protected for free speech. So thank you. I'll let you go to Maria.
Marie, thank you so much for your comments. And Carl, thank you so much for your comments also. This is our country, folks. Let's take it back. I went to the parade in Joliet yesterday, and after the parade, I was talking with one of the Will County board members, and she and I were chatting about the responsibility of our elected officials to actually perform their duties. And she was telling me about her sister-in-law who has a farm, and she has farm animals. And she said when the farm animals don't produce the milk that they were supposed to produce, they become food. And so our elected officials, if they don't do their job, they should be challenged and they should be replaced in their offices. Maria, thank you so much for waiting patiently. Thank you so much for joining us. Break the echo chamber on this for us.
Good morning to all of you. No, I was so inspired by the frankness of the discussion on the most important topic, which is the protection of freedom of speech. Let me start out by saying that we want to tie in the term dissent, the freedom to dissent, with the protection of the freedom of speech. And I was very, very happy to see that Harvard is getting its funds back. I think that the country should recognize that if a court has recognized that the restricting of funds based on how a university operates and who it accepts as students and what it allows as academic discourse to restrict funds is illegal, that is a step in the right direction to allow our children who are college students and academic thinkers and scholars to be able to open debate on many, many issues. And that is what's going to get us out of here. So I personally think that that's going to be a domino effect. the administration is going to halt and review and think about in what manner it can actually control dissent. And I think that goes, no matter what the administration is, that goes hand in hand with the American identity to protect dissent. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the, again, we talked about this last time, but ICE coming in and detaining a number of South Korean workers that were working in a plant for an automobile company. And as we had discussed last time, exactly what we expected happened. There was a deal made by the governments in South Korea and the government here to discover what is the best process to be able to talk about immigration and illegal immigration, but still protect business interests. And the deal has been made of how to deal with these employees and be able to provide them with protection. This is just an idea for us to think about of how immigration policies can really influence business interests of our nation, and if it's ever used in that manner. And so it's always a bigger picture. And I just want us to all think about that when we break this. There is always a bigger picture beyond the policies, and there's many angles of why it's being implemented. So that's very, very important. And I think we need to keep an eye on what type of deal is made, because what we're going to see is consistently individuals that bring in lucrative investments into this country. There's going to be deals made on immigration. The other thing I wanted to talk about is stock trading. So I don't know if many of you know that that Speaker Johnson had actually put in motion the ability to ban stock trading within Congress. And again, the bigger picture, the administration has moved to circumvent that and allow stock trading. And I think it's interesting for us to think about elected officials being individuals that have goals and investments and financial goals as well, and they have multiple businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that. But keeping an eye on conflicts of interest is key. And we see this again and again in campaigns and raising money and who the biggest impact, who the biggest impact maker is as a lobby effort. All of these should be looked in to a record of a congressional elected person and also a candidate, what their desires are, as entrepreneurs, as businesses, who are they being lobbied with and who do they really cater to when they're running for office and while they're in office. And now I want to bring it down to what everybody's speaking about around the country. And I do agree with Carl that the most important observation for us as Americans is the attack on the Constitution, the attack on freedom of speech, the ability to recognize that words can make you unsafe today in this country. And I actually think that there is an opportunity here to see incredible commonality through loss, grief, and political rhetoric. And I would say if we don't take the opportunity to see that different people from different circumstances and different races and religions have opinions that differ from us, but have a right to not be dehumanized into violence, if we don't recognize that, then we're actually missing the point. One thing that I was talking about with someone earlier this week is that the murder of Wadea Fayumi, a 6-year-old Palestinian boy who was stabbed 26 times, that murder actually happened due to political rhetoric. And so we have to understand that when we think about these issues, many people are impacted and many people have been impacted. And I don't think you can actually have a discussion about Charlie Kirk's murder and not discuss Wadea Fayumi, because both of them were due of somebody's disagreement or belief of false narratives about somebody else. I don't think it's really unnecessary to go in and think about what Charlie Kirk's views were. I think it is necessary because it only shows that it's so important for us to understand how different people think and feel and speak and think about where their perspective is coming from and who they're inspiring. And I only say that because people have said, let's not rehash the things that he has said because he has passed away. And I agree with that. He's not there to defend himself. So I get that point. But I think it's very important to recognize that there's different points of disagreement all around the country. And since we live and sit in an echo chamber, many times those thoughts are so foreign and unbelievably shocking to us. But there are people who understand and relate to that. And the most important question is why? Why? Why do people feel and think certain things? And where can we find the commonality of our human experience to understand how they got there? The other thing I wanted to end with here, and I think Marie spoke about this, is we have to figure out the role of tech companies in this process. You know, I talk about this a lot, that digital algorithm addiction, which gives dopamine hits to young people, it has immense profit for these tech companies. And I've always argued that the mental health impacts of these algorithms are the kind that if we were to recognize the mental damage they're doing, it would be criminal, right? These tech companies would be reined in, absolutely reined in. And I think the political echo chambers is exactly that. The political echo chambers, when you're, and you know that, when you're in an algorithm, you see the same thing that you agree with again and again and again. And the tech companies know this. So having mandates that rein that in is a real serious discussion. It is unfortunate to see that because of this tragedy, we are having these discussions in real substantive ways. But if we don't see opportunity through tragedy to save other people's lives, then we're not moving forward. So to connect the dots here, I would say tech companies have a role. The political rhetoric that leads to violence comes from both sides. There's no doubt about that. And I'll say that very critically because I don't want it to be a politicized discussion consistently throughout. Because when we spoke about Wadil Fayumi, if you remember, we spoke about the fact that his identity was dehumanized with the administration that was from the Democrats. I mean, the Palestinian Voice was not even at the DNC, right? So when you do not humanize somebody and you don't humanize their identity, this is what happens. And I think that people become just opinions and people become just talking points. So we have to see commonalities. We have to look behind policies to really see what they mean with people's interests. And we have to understand why narratives are created, for what end, and understand that violence does not escape anybody today.
Maria, thank you so much. Ken had a question, but before we come to Ken, we had a caller, Jeff, who called in, wanting to know about what happened with the incident with the ICE shooting the other day, Marie, and you wanted to address that. So if you could please.
So just the top line on what occurred in that tragic moment. So in Franklin Park, there was a young man who worked at a quick service restaurant who was targeted by ICE agents. And they ran after him, ran him off the road with their cars and came running up to them. And I just want to put you in the driver's seat of that young man. He only has heard on TV and through friends that when ICE comes, you get picked up, put into an awful prison, the awful of the awfulest here, and then get sent to a gulag in some foreign nation. That's what's going through his head. We still don't know if he was fully documented, undocumented, or what he was. But that young man was terrified because 80% of those people that the ICE agents are picking up right now have not so much as had a parking ticket. They are just being picked up. So this man chose to resist arrest. Let's be honest about that. He did choose to resist.
That's a normal reaction to anybody.
But I want you to understand how fearful it is for these people. Mm-hmm. They live in fear all day long because they speak a certain way, they are black or brown or something other crazy thing. They should not feel in fear ever, but they do. So now these ICE agents impale upon him And he decides, I'm going to resist because you know what? I'm going to go to a gulag in some foreign nation. So I'm terrified. And he keeps driving. The ICE agent is somehow hooked onto the vehicle and gets dragged a bit. She takes her firearm out, shoots him, and he is shot dead for doing basically nothing. They have no idea if he was guilty of an iota of anything. So at the end of the day, these ICE agents that are rent-a-cops frequently have created such a fearful environment that now people are resisting arrest more than ever. So they've had the exact opposite effect of what they wanted to have. So I just want to underline the fear that these people are in every day. But I also want to underline we all do have to follow the law. That said, this has to be fixed. This overwhelming militarized ICE is not helping anyone.
It's not going to, and that is something that we have to hold our elected officials responsible for this and accountable for this. Ken, you had a question.
Yeah, I have a question for both Maria and Marie. Well, not a question. And Maria, I was a stockbroker and a commodity broker, and you brought up the subject of elected officials trading in the stock market. My opinion on that is that for them to do individual stocks, absolutely not. If they want to go into a index fund like the S&P 500 or the Dow, and they have no control of whatever the market goes in whatever, absolutely, they should be allowed to do that. Okay. Again, Marie, I had civics in high school. That's been a long time ago, I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
If a brand new representative were to go on get elected in, the 14th district or the 8th district or whatever it is from here, and they were to go on the floor, could they present a constitutional amendment to basically address gerrymandering, or is that completely not even on the table? I don't know.
Yeah, they could do it. It's just not a fruitful exercise usually. So a little context will help. That bill has already been tried many times over the last probably 30 years. And this is just a fact. This is just a statistic. The red states are more gerrymandered in general than the blue states. But the blue states, particularly in Illinois, is highly gerrymandered. So let's be honest, there's fault everywhere. The real problem, there's other root problems associated with this. The Electoral College was a racist system we built 175 years ago. And it continues to be that. And the reason I bring up the Electoral College is because that's actually a bigger problem than gerrymandering is. So if we were to get rid of the Electoral College, it might be more fruitful as a starting point. But in terms of gerrymandering, yeah, there have been bills tried before. It doesn't mean that we can't try again. What the real story here is all of the things that are either racist, unfair, or illegal should be looked at once we get power back in Congress. So yes, a representative of any sort, old, new, or in the middle, should come up and see if we can get rid of gerrymandering. It is harder to do because there are a few Democrats that still like it. And it would be a very heavy-handed bill telling all the states how to run their redistricting processes. And that's the problem, right? That's the real problem. They get real cranky about that. The states, blue and red, get real cranky about that. So it is fraught with issues, but yes, it can be done.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for some great discussion. Carl had a comment that Carl wanted to make. And Carl, if you're still on, if you're listening to us, if you just want to go ahead and quickly make your point. If not, I can read out the message that you sent. So,
well, no, it's just an interesting conversation, and we all have our opinions, but I don't know. It's probably we don't have enough time to talk about it, but what people don't the one thing that's missed in the narrative and the story is a federal agent who's doing their job for whatever reason. They're doing their job. Was attacked by somebody in an automobile. I mean, that if you break that down, why that person was in the automobile, why that agent was there, is a different story. I've been stopped many, many, many times by law enforcement. I've never thought for a moment to flee. I've never thought for a moment to use my vehicle to run somebody over. I mean, that's
He
a
did.
lot of the time.
Wait, I do have to stop you there, Carl. The gentleman in the car did not try to run him over. He was fleeing, which is wrong. Resisting arrest is wrong. But
Okay.
he feared for his life, and rightfully so, given the track record of this administration.
Yeah, but
It
how do
is
you know
wrong
that?
to
How do you know
resist.
that? How do you know
Yeah.
that? You
What?
just made a statement. He feared for his life. How do you know that?
Because his entire family said that he feared it every day. He was on camera, ABC, CBS, NBC.
Okay. All right. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he ran somebody over. I don't know how that's
No, hang on one second, Carl.
He was dragged.
If you
The
read,
officer was dragged.
yeah, the officer
He
was
did not run him
dragged
over.
and not run over. The officer was hanging on to the car, and the guy started to move. Okay, 9:50, folks. We are having some great discussions today, and we are actually live every Sunday now from 8 to 10. So if you want to join the conversation, the numbers to call in 773-763-9278. This is the Lightning Strike Talk Radio Show, and we are celebrating our second anniversary now. And thank you so much for being part of it. We got 10 minutes to finish off, and I wanted to really switch back to what the heck is happening on the international level now with Israel going rogue again and again and actually hitting a U.S. ally in the Middle East. I mean, Qatar, come on, we have the biggest air base over there for our country, and Israel goes and attacks Qatar. What is this? What is the sense in that? I mean, Israel is supposed to be an ally of the United States. An ally does not hurt their friends. President Trump went to Qatar and he came back with some great contracts and everything. And I'm not even going to talk about the $400 million aeroplane that Qatar gifted him. But now, major foreign contracts in Qatar that are potentially affected by the recent Israeli strike in Doha include several high-value deals across aviation, defense, infrastructure, and public-private partnership. At this point, there has been no mass cancellations. The Emir of Qatar has come down to the United States to talk to Trump in person and maybe just tell him to his face that you're going to lose billions of dollars. Our country is going to lose billions of dollars by this action of Israel, which makes no sense now. Qatar Airways signed a record order of 160 Boeing jetliners, wide-body aircraft with GE Aerospace engines. The value was like $96 billion. This was during President Trump's Gulf visit in May of this year. This is Boeing's largest ever deal for wide-body planes and the single biggest U.S.-Qatar commerce contract. This is at risk now. Future deliveries or after-sales support could be complicated by this instability. What goods? I mean, why this is happening, guys? I want to ask our team over here, does it make sense? I mean, is that what an ally is supposed to act like?
I think Netanyahu is pushing every button, every way, because he has a lot of leverage over Trump. And Netanyahu is uncontainable at this point. It's just like Putin. Putin is uncontainable because he has compromat on, that's very clear. This is not how leaders act when they're on an equitable footing, right? So I think we're going to see more of this very, very violent behavior from Netanyahu. I think this is the beginning.
Marie, isn't the problem with Netanyahu is that if he doesn't have a conflict going, that he will be basically impeached and go to jail? And isn't he just not perpetuating his actions just to keep himself in office?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, he and Trump bonded over the fact they had the same problem, that they were convicted of dozens of crimes and were perpetually in a corruption scandal, right? And he probably would have lost his spot had he not completely, I mean, he was already far to the right, but if he had gone where he is now with all of these, I mean, honestly, not well people in his cabinet. And so now he has to keep the war going so that in fact he doesn't go to jail, because he knows the minute that he ends this war that things will start to come back to the center there in terms of the government officials, and he likely will be taken out of office. So yeah, it's the same as Trump. I mean, Trump is trying to gerrymander, back to our gerrymander question, so that he can stay in office, because he knows once we take power again that he will be his best case scenario is to be neutered and cauterized and lame. But he also knows that he could get impeached. Same deal.
Well, and let's also not forget, folks, that continuing genocide that is going on in Gaza. I keep on bringing it up every week because this is such a huge blot on our conscience as Americans. Our money is being used, and our leadership is complicit in this.
Yeah,
And
good point,
let's
Mohammed.
not forget about
Was
this.
it the EU basically? Was it the EU that basically categorized what's going on there officially as genocide? That was like a week or two ago.
Yep, and the amount, the impact on us financially as a country is huge with this Netanyahu character going rogue all the time. Something has to be done. Defense contracts worth $42 billion were signed with U.S. companies, including Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman as part of the expanded security cooperation following Trump's May visit. This is all going to be impacted. Qatar has also charted a 5-year infrastructure expansion worth $22 billion. I mean, just look at the numbers over here, folks. And the economic impact on our country is going to be huge just by this character not being held accountable for his actions. And how long?
FYI, I just got a text from the station. Our feed dropped out and he's trying to get it reinstated. So we may have to push out our social media platform in a
Well,
later-
our Zoom is still going on.
No, our Zoom is going on, but our feed to
Facebook
the
is still
radio
going on,
station
so don't worry
fell off the
about
cliff.
that part of it. And I'll talk to the station about the feed dropping off. It's about 4 minutes left for the show, folks. And again, I want everyone to please pay attention to what is happening in the country and in the world around us and how our leadership is complicit in this. And I'm talking about leadership of both the parties. And for the first time now, Marie, people are starting to take notice. I just got an email yesterday from Lauren Underwood that she is being challenged now. She has a primary challenger.
Wow.
And here's the thing. All these people want to do is they want to ask for money. Okay.
Yeah.
The message says that Lauren Underwood is now facing 5 challengers.
6.
Okay. 5 challengers or 6 challengers? No, Lauren, you're only facing one primary challenger.
Yeah.
The other
Anyways,
people are running
by the way,
in
guys, whoever hasn't heard this yet, we're doing an event on the 19th for anyone who is running for offices in the southern area of the Chicagoland area. There's no cost involved. There'll be food and beverages and whatnot, and you're going to meet with a lot of people if you want to show up. So if you're interested, please let me know, and I'll give you the info on that.
Okay, and speaking of that, Maria, you want to talk about the fundraiser that you're doing for Wissam?
The fundraiser for Wissam, yes, there's Wissam Shahid is running for Cook County Commissioner, I believe. So I will be doing a fundraiser for him, and we can share that information separately. But since you gave me the floor, I do want to add 2 things specifically to end this conversation. One is that what we hear about the interactions between ICE and individuals and why there's 2 sides of the stories, because there's a lack of protocol, process, oversight with cameras on federal agents. So we need to make sure that we understand when there's a lack of process and protocol, it's always going to be he said, she said, he said, he said, she said, she said. And we cannot treat these individuals, these lives, as the kind that we can just debate over. Put some cameras on the federal agents, policies, protocols, limitations, and have them identify themselves so we can follow through. Number one. Number two, the attack on Doha, I think we need to recognize is that the underestimation of the region and the alliances and what the perception is when you attack that region in that way, a nation that's a mediator, that's a rallying cry for all those Gulf states that are recognizing that rules are not being followed. And so we know what's happening in Gaza is identified as genocide by majority of international law experts and in Europe. But what we don't recognize is that the global coalition in that region will not allow themselves to be attacked to the level where they are being broken up in pieces by the US, even to the point where the alliance is at risk. So if you see the minister of Qatar and what his words are now, he specifically says that he was shocked. He considered it an act of terror, right? And he does not want to use any other term. So if he's identifying that and he's attaching that to the United States, we have to understand that the region is not going to just lay down and accept it. And they will hold people accountable. And that makes everybody more unsafe, by the way, because the infusion of breaking the dynamics of a mediation already shows you that there's no interest in peace talks or a ceasefire. And once that region understands that, and of course, behind closed door, everybody knows what realities are that the public doesn't know. But when it's in broad view of everybody, it cannot be denied. And so the region, I think, will create an alliance and will come together and will close doors. And they're starting to, and we just can't afford that.
Wonderful. On that note, thank you all so much for joining us. Today's broadcast was again one of those programs that we are trying to do to bring the community together. And if you really want to make a difference, folks, do go to our website. Marie, our new website should be up next week. It's almost done. So it will be tlsradio.com. Hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, we should have the website up. And you are definitely going to be very, very happy with that. Maria, thank you. Marie, thank you. Ken, thank you. Carl, thank you so much for joining us. Dali and Adriana and Sheila, thank you so much for being on the program. We'll see you all next week, same place, same time.
Ciao.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank
Take
you.
care.